first of all, tiny little bit about me. I don't know if you can see that, but I've not been camera flying all that long. Just since about 2019 is when I started filming on the camera pool here at Skydive The Mag. I've got about 500 camera jumps, 400 of which are kind of work camera jumps, so filming tandems and people's AFF jumps. About 100 of the other 100 of those are normally formation skydiving, so big way, some four-way teams, and a little bit of multiplane as well. So because I don't see myself really as that experienced, I often talk to the other camera flyers on our team for advice about the technical side of things. Rather than talk about the technical side of camera flying, I aim to kind of introduce you to what it's all about and how to take those first steps into getting into camera. So first of all, what is camera flying? To put it really simply, it's filming skydives. But if you think of the term skydive, that can mean bazillion different things. So camera flying is just as broad as skydiving itself. It could be that you've just got a GoPro on your head and you're filming your own jumps, so you're inside that skydive, part of that plan, and you're just filming what's happening. It could be that you're wanting to film a team, so a team that's competing, a little bit more pressure here, trying to make sure that you're getting your camera at the right angle so the judges can score that team based on their jumps. Or maybe you're into kind of more interesting artistic photography, trying to find photos that will end up on publications like in the Skydive The Mag or even on these cool posters that you see here. Or maybe it's because you want to start working in the sport. And for me, this is why I got into camera flying. To start off with, I wanted to find a way where I could jump lots and start earning money whilst living on the drop zone. And camera flying was a perfect opportunity for that. As time has gone on, my interest in camera flying has grown even more. And now I really enjoy the technical side of it. I really enjoy the fact that you can fly around formations and try and find different angles, and then you end up with different images based on where you've flown in relation to the people in the jump and also where the light's coming from as well. You might already have a bit of an aim in mind. So you might be sat there thinking, yeah, I really want to film a team, or I really want to start working in the sport and filming tandems. So hopefully this PowerPoint will help you understand kind of where your first steps can be and how you can progress into that. Or maybe you just think it looks cool and it's something you might do one day, and hopefully this will give you a bit of inspiration for what you might want to get into. So why camera fly? A couple of these things we've kind of already touched upon, but like I said, recording your own jumps. Sometimes it's kind of cool, you do an awesome jump with your friends, you get down and you can watch it back and record all the funny moments, the hilarious stuff. Sometimes the really cool stuff, someone's accidentally done something that's totally badass and you've got it on video to show everybody. Sometimes you can use those recordings to capture interesting things. Maybe you've had a camera and you've had a malfunction, and then you can look back at the footage and learn something from it. Maybe you're going to use it for coaching people, so you can use that to debrief as well. It might be that you want to combine hobbies. Maybe you're already really into photography and videography, so you're really interested in that. You've started skydiving, and you can combine the two to make some mega awesome hobby where you're doing both at the same time. Capturing moments. So this is something that I really like about camera flying with skydiving, is that you can't really recreate a skydive. So if you miss a shot, if you miss a photo, that's it, it's gone. You can't get that again. So it's kind of cool to try your best to get those funny moments when you're filming tandems. There's always that moment where their face goes of sheer terror, so they realise they're actually enjoying it. And it's awesome to try and get that photo for them. Photo in the door, when they're landing. Like I said, you can't recreate a skydive. The lighting's always going to be different. The people in it are going to be different. Also, as I said already, you might want to do it for work. It's an awesome way of earning some money in the sport, working in the sport. You get to fly yourself, you get to jump your own kit, and you get to meet lots of people whilst you're doing it as well. So, who can be a camera flyer? British Skydiving says that you need your C licence. So essentially you need your 200 jumps. You need a camera helmet that's been approved by your chief instructor to make sure it's nice and safe for you to go and jump. However, it's important to note that what the British Skydiving Ops Manual says is the minimum requirement. So just because you've got your 200 jumps doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go from having no cameras to a full camera setup and jumping out and filming tandems straight away. The reason that's a minimum requirement is because it's surprisingly distracting. when you've got a camera on your head, especially when you're purposely trying to film a skydive, trying to take photos of it. Suddenly you're focusing on what everyone else is doing rather than what you're doing yourself. So I kind of see it that there's like a bit of a spectrum of camera flying, and you gradually work your way through this spectrum. So that looks a little bit like that. You're gradually building up your experience, and each time you kind of move along the spectrum, you've got a little bit more headspace to focus on the next step. So you're not going from having just thinking about yourself to thinking about loads of different things all at once and forgetting the really important parts of the skydive, like your altitude awareness and pulling your parachutes. So if we work along the spectrum, first of all, before you've even got 200 jumps, there's loads of stuff you can do. If you've just got your A license and you're already keen to think, I want to start filming jumps, I want to start flying camera as soon as I can, you can put loads of work in already. First of all, learning about cameras. So as I said, when I started filming, I did it because I wanted to start working in the sport, and I really didn't know the technical side of things that much. So I had to ask for lots of advice. Whereas if beforehand, I'd started to learn about cameras, how they work, the different settings, how they work in different lightings, then it would have made it even easier when I started doing it as a job. Also, watching videos. So we're always watching videos of skydives. They're around us all the time. There's tons of stuff on YouTube. You might be watching boogie edits and loads of stuff. However, one thing I'd say is when you're watching the videos, often we focus on the skydivers that we can see. If you've got it in the back of your mind that you want to start filming skydives, then think about the skydiver you can't see, that invisible person that's getting all the shots, and think about where they must be flying in relation to everybody else in order to get the pictures or videos that you're seeing. And then you start to build up an understanding of what the camera slot is. Also, there's loads of stuff on the ground. Everybody loves that cool photo you get, end of a boogie, sunset, walking off the landing area, looking all cool with your canopy draped over your shoulder. If you've got pre-200 jumps, you can be that person getting those cool photos of everybody. Same for videos. You watch boogie edits. There's loads of video footage on the ground that helps that edit look kind of come together. It's not all just about jumping out of planes. Also, a real big thing is developing your own flying skills. So as I said, when you're filming or taking photos of other people in the sky, you're focusing on what they're doing. So the less you need to think about how you're flying, the easier that's going to get. So then, you finally get that 200 jump mark. You get your C license. At this point, I'd recommend just sticking a GoPro on your head and turn it on in the plane, turn it off when you land. Everything in between, just forget that it's even there, because it's still that added distraction. It's also the perfect time to make the mistakes. You get down from an awesome jump, you're ready to show your friends the footage you got, and you realise your battery was flat. Or your SD card was already in your laptop from the jump before and you've missed all the footage. But that's okay. No one's going to be that disappointed because you weren't there in order to film the jump anyway. You were just there to be part of it. Also, as I said, key thing here is don't get distracted by that. We're still building up the experience, getting used to having that camera on our head before we really start focusing on what footage the camera's getting. You're still at this point going to be working a lot on your own flying skills. So getting some coaching, joining some skills camps, doing a bit of tunnel, all that stuff's going to be really, really helpful. And then we might move along a little bit further. Once we get comfortable with our GoPro on our head and we're getting pretty happy that we're turning it on, turning it off, we might then want to start thinking about flying a camera slot. So a camera slot, this is where you're filming where you're flying in relation to the group that you're filming, means you get all the cool photos and footage. So if you think about this picture here, we've got our camera flyer flying fairly steep over the formation, but then as I said earlier, if you think about that invisible skydiver, we've got another person flying around about here to get this whole thing in shot as well. So it's where they're flying in relation to the group. In order to do this, you've got to be pretty comfortable with the discipline that you're filming. For example, if you're going to film a four-way group, that four-way aren't going to stay in one spot for you. They're going to be scooting and skating around the sky, and you've got to be pretty happy that you can chase them wherever they're going. If you're interested in filming things like tracking, then there's often times that you end up flying through people's burbles in order to get the really awesome shots. Or you might end up on your belly for half the jump and transition round and then start tracking on your back for the other half of the jump. So you've got to be pretty happy that you can do all of that while still looking at the skydive in order to get all the video and photos. Finding things to film. So at this point, I think especially if you're working on filming belly, which is going to be helpful if you eventually want to start filming tandems, finding a team to film is going to be really, really helpful. It's normally expected that you'd pay for your own slot for the first year because essentially you're that team's goalkeeper. And Chris Cook, who is the head of the camera pool here, has written a really good article about that, how it sucks to be a goalkeeper because people only notice when you mess up. So if you bust the team points, if you've accidentally missed their exit, or you've not got quite steep enough for the judges to see all the grips in the formation to be able to score them, people only notice the camera flyer when that happens. So for the first season, you tend to pay your slot whilst you get used to where you have to fly to ensure that you're not busting anything. And again, being aware of that possible distraction. At this stage, being aware of what you could be distracted by is half the battle. If you're trying to chase a skydive around the sky, you've still got to keep that all important stuff like your altitude awareness in the back of your mind so you're ready to pull at the right height. You might also at this point want to start thinking about getting some extra bits of equipment. So maybe you want to get a second camera as a backup just in case. You might also want to start flying with camera wings. So that's what this gentleman's got here. Some wings that give you some extra drag. It's going to help if you're trying to get underneath a formation. It helps you get a really good angle, but it also means you can fly over the top of things and you can fly through their burble and it's not going to affect you so much. They do take a little bit of getting used to though, so definitely going and doing a few solos with them to understand how you engage the wings and disengage the wings and how to get good openings whilst flying those camera wings as well. And then you can start to put it all together. So now we're starting to multitask. You've got used to flying that camera slot. You're pretty confident you're not busting your team many points, or if at all. So now you can start thinking about other stuff as well. Maybe we want to now start taking photos. So we can start to put a stills camera on our head. Now, when I first was learning to film tandems, the first few jumps where I put a stills camera on my head, I'd get down and super excited. It's almost like Christmas morning. You get down, I want to see what I got. I want to see what I got. And you want to look through your photos. And every time, for about the first 5 or 6, I'd get down and have no photos of their exit. None at all. Because I was concentrating so hard on trying to fly with the tandem and get nice and close that taking photos just didn't even register. Didn't remember to do it at all. So you get a photo in the door, and the next thing, they're in free fall, having a great time. So you build up that experience to remember to take photos. And then it goes the other way, and sometimes then you end up getting down, you've got like 200 photos that you've got to go through and try and find the best ones to send them. So you've got a bit of admin to do on the ground. You can also start thinking about framing. So often you'll see us with a little thing over our eye, it's our ring sight, and that helps us see what our cameras are seeing. So it helps line up with the lenses of the cameras. So you can start really thinking about perfecting where whatever we're filming is in the center of our frame, or maybe a little bit offset depending on what kind of shot we're trying to get. If we're trying to be artistic, we can now start playing around with things. Again, if you're thinking about the invisible camera flyer, if we think we've got this camera flyer here, which is Paul, the person getting this photo has had to fly quite close to them. All right, so it's now you've got the experience to be able to fly in some slightly more funky places, but you've still got that awareness that Paul here is focused on the skydive. He's probably got peripheral vision, pretty aware that there's somebody there because he's built up all that awareness over gradually building his experience to almost have eyes in the back of his head. At this point, if you're filming a formation, for example, without even counting the people, you can normally tell if someone's missing. And if they are, you can sometimes sense them kind of come in. It's like Jaws, and then they appear right underneath in your burble and you're ready to dodge them and you're not too surprised by them. So by working along that spectrum of camera flying, you're slowly building up your experience so that you've got much more awareness in freefall, so that you're ready to take on all these other possible distractions and they're not going to affect you. So this bit's just a little bit about the equipment that you use. I've got a couple of my helmets here. So as I said, when you first get your 200 jumps, something like this is going to be pretty good. You might already have your full face. Stick a GoPro on the top. Make sure you've got a way to release that if anything was to get tangled around it. And that's going to see you good for quite a while. Like I said, even if you start filming a four-way team, you can still start doing that with one of these helmets as well. Then when you progress a little bit further along, you can get a camera helmet. I actually got this helmet when I had an A license. I was lucky and won a voucher for Cookie. So I got the open face, didn't have the chin cup, didn't have all of this stuff on it, but I started using that and then lent it to someone for a little bit. And then when I started flying cameras, just started to add bits to it. So a lot of the time, open faces that you can get pre-200 jumps, you can keep hold of, they're pretty versatile. You can start building up your camera helmet from there. As I said, this is your ring sight, so it just flips over the eye and it lines up with the lenses of the camera. So as I look through the ring sight, I can kind of imagine what my camera's seeing. I also have a bite switch, so if I want to take photos, I pop this in my mouth, I bite on that, and it's going to take a photo for me. I also obviously have a cutaway, so if anything was to get wrapped around that, I'd be able to release the whole helmet as well. So the cool thing with camera helmets is they're pretty versatile. Sometimes I'll take the stills camera off, I can take the ring sight off, and I can just have my GoPro on the front, which is again pretty good if I go back to just doing some coaching or AFF and I don't want to wear my full face, I can wear this one instead. The other thing is camera wings. So you might have seen a few people wearing these around the drop zone. So you can have it as a jacket, or some people have it as a full suit as well. And we get this big extra bit of material here that can clip either back onto the wing or even onto your rig. So as you fly with your arms, that piece of material gets nice and tight, creates a lot of extra drag. Like I said, it can help if you're flying on your belly. I can get underneath a tandem and it helps pitch you right up, so you can get that really cool steep shot. You get the tandem pair and you get the drogue in the background. If it's just out the exit, you get the plane as well. It's one of the shots I always try and get. It also means if you're over a formation, you can fly right in their burble and you're less affected by it. So you can get super steep. The steeper you are, the less likely you're going to bust the points. You're going to get all those grips in shot. But the steeper and closer you are, the more of a burble you're going to experience. And there's two camera flyers in the world, those that have fallen through a formation and those that will. So when you're learning, it's kind of accepting that sometimes you're going to mess up. Sometimes it doesn't quite work out. But the thing that I really like about camera flying is you get down, you always look at your pictures and your video and you think, oh, I could have flown here, I could have got this picture, I could have done that. There's always ways to kind of improve it and work on it. And yeah, there we go. That's it.